Looks like we're hot.
This bill legalizes sawed-off shotguns.
Hello, everyone. It is ShiftLess Shotguns. And yeah, shotguns approved. Well, not really, but we'll talk about it. We got some legislation stuff that we do need to chat about at multiple levels. I'm really excited about this episode, to be perfectly honest with you. I think a lot of pieces are coming together on a bunch of Kevin's world, and I'm excited. I'm gonna leave it at that. Coming at you, hot.
Not super hot.
No, actually, quite comfortable at the moment.
That's not bad.
Beautiful, and not breezy. It seems.
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't. What is the wind forecast for today?
It's light today, but
Casa Verde.
it's
outside of downtown Argyle, Texas.
It says winds out of the south at 10.
Okay.
10 miles an hour.
I will be riding my bike
gusts
today.
Oh, I'm gonna try. I've got so much prep to do.
Oh, that's right. This is slammed week for Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Private offsite Friday and regular fam on Saturday. Is that how it's working?
Yep.
Okay. So we're not going long today. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, my kitchen's still in disarray because Paula won't let me put anything back in the drawers until our contact paper gets here, and it's supposed to get here today.
No, I don't disagree with her logic.
Yeah. But in the meantime, all of my utensils and equipment is spread everywhere.
Okay.
So it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be here this morning, so we'll see.
All right.
Speaking of, it's supposed to arrive soon. My tent has finally shipped.
Oh, wait a minute.
I am beyond excited. I can't wait. And I've been watching more and more videos, and I did watch a video recently where a guy said that he's changed his mind about that tent, where at first he didn't want to like it, and now he's like in love with it. So
okay.
It was kind of reassuring.
That's good.
So I'll be excited to get it, play with it, set it up, sleep in it, check it out.
Perfect time of year for tent camping.
Man, that's what's crazy. I mean, it's hammock weather all day long.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
big news.
Mm-hmm.
What's did you haven't heard Tour Divide?
No, I have.
Where is this?
I have not. Oh, actually, maybe I heard mention. Maybe this is where you're going. I don't know. What's the big news?
I'm gonna say his name wrong.
Oh, nope.
Robin Gimperly.
Nope.
Sounds
I have no
like
idea.
Gimperly.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
He just finished the Tour Divide.
In a week? Less than a week.
Under 12 days.
Okay.
11 days.
Okay.
11 days, 19 hours.
That's right. We recorded last. Okay.
Yeah. 11 days, 19 hours, and 14 minutes.
Shows you how much I've been following it.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the guy that was sleeping in hotels every night?
Yeah. Yeah. It says 11 days, 19 hours, 14 minutes. And they had a 140-mile fire detour in central New Mexico. Man.
So is it 100? So did it add 140 miles, or we don't know?
That's the insinuation. It says the 2025 route included a 140-mile fire detour in central New Mexico.
Yeah, but it may have been 140 miles of detour that bypassed 300 miles of course.
I immediately read it as an ad, but I didn't even contemplate the fact that it could be a subtraction.
I don't. It's
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not trying to put an asterisk on his accomplishment by any stretch of the imagination. Actually, I'm going to pour me some coffee.
Shit! I thought I poured you something. I got you. yeah, I did some quick math, and my math was probably wrong because I did it in bed while I was still half asleep and had no coffee yet. But
Thank you, sir.
225 miles a day. Does that sound right? 12 days?
Whoops. 225 times 12. I don't know.
No.
I can't do that math in my head.
No. 2,700 divided by 12. 225 miles a day. And he rode, they said that he took a 5-hour break every day. What was that? Oh, lucky.
It's lucky.
So it says he took a 5-hour break every day with about 5-hour stops earlier in the race, and the stopped time growing just slightly as the days wore on. He slept, and then he simply rode faster than everyone else when he was moving. So 19 hours a day. So he averaged right at 12 miles an hour for 2,700 miles. That's impressive, man. And I think I can't remember how much climbing there is, but there's well over 200,000.
More than around here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More than around here. Well, congratulations to, what was his name again?
Oh, you had to ask me that. Robin
G.
G.
Robin G. Congratulations on setting the next Tour Divide record.
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, they just keep getting faster and faster and faster.
And like I was talking about last week, personally, I appreciate the daily stop routine.
Mm-hmm.
From a promoter's perspective, that just gives me a little bit more peace of mind,
mm-hmm.
sort of thing. Because I mean, there's been Ram riders and
Trans-America, and
they've fallen asleep and
yeah, it's crazy.
Gone into traffic, So
yeah,
I mean, there at one point there was some.
The real testament is every picture I saw of this guy smiles, just smile, smile, smile. Reminds me of Lael Wilcox, always smiling.
And she dropped out, right?
She had respiratory issues, is what I understood.
Yeah, she's always had like asthma issues or something like that.
There's somebody else that pulled out because of respiratory issues too. In other news,
I'm all ears.
The top secret project that Caleb and I went to Terlingua to work on got released yesterday, so it's finally able to be discussed.
Oh, okay. I'm so confused because when I was asking about that last week or before, he said, "No, it's all out." Because I was asking, "When's it going to be released?"
I think it just came out yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, GRX DI, or what is it? DI2, fully wireless, 12 speed. So it's out. There's multiple.
See, I didn't even know exactly what y'all were covering there. So you did really good with your NDA.
I didn't want to get in trouble.
I understand. So we now have wireless GRX.
Mm-hmm.
1x and 2x?
I believe so.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Part of the commercial. So they have a 1 minute ad, I guess, that all the footage was shot there where we were.
Episode 1
stills.
Brought to you by Shimano GRX Wireless.
Yeah, I wish.
Really? Ain't a chance in hell. Ain't a chance in hell. Well, we're done. I'm going to have to watch that, and we'll have to book Caleb as a guest sometime to really fill us in on the details about that trip.
We need to send him a guest request.
Maybe actually, if we do it from the agency perspective, maybe he can actually get paid by the man for it too. It's help promoting your agency, right?
That would be cool.
Well, I am looking forward to plugging that in and watching that when I get home.
I'm pretty stoked about it. That's cool.
Any other projects in the works or stuff happening that we need to get caught up on or start rolling into the into this. Did you get that link I sent you with the rat stops that you asked about?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it yet.
Okay.
Do you want me to pull it up real time?
Sure, go ahead and do that.
Oh, it's a Google Doc. What could go wrong?
It's actually just a web page.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Are you okay with that? Can you see that on your Mac OS device or whatever it is?
Is this everything? Is that the whole document?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Well, you said you wanted to see what the stops were.
Oh, I see. I see now. Hotel town, stage stop. Oh, those are the stage stops. Okay.
In
Daily
red.
Distance 142, 123, 141, 126, 104, 101, 124. Okay.
Manageable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's walk through. Let's walk through. So on my way out the door last week, Brad had requested. I mean, actually, no. Maybe while we were recording, because I talked about going to rat1000.com and you could see it there. This is a little bit more detailed view of it.
Yeah.
The rat mileages for the stage stops that we were talking about, because Brad and Caleb are now committed to doing the stage approach.
Oh, I don't think we're committed.
Oh, you
We're
are
not
committed.
committed
No,
to anything.
you are committed, because we're taking this next level here. We're tying all the pieces together this episode.
I'm still going to tent camp.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine. At each of those red stops, I will arrange a camping facility of some sort.
I mean, I'll hobo it. I'll just pitch a tent underneath the overpass or something.
You're good at pitching tents.
Still got it, baby.
Yeah, man. Lucky you. Lucky you. But well, let's walk through this real quick. Actually, I need to bring it up. Man, they are. But I put the peppermint oil on, and they're biting me today. It might be those damn yellow flies.
Oh, I was going to mention something to you, because my kid and I were talking about this the other day. Do you eat bananas during the summer?
Bananas?
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Are you a banana consumer?
No, fairly regularly, but
I probably need to Google this, but it's one of those things that has registered itself in my brain as facts, and I've not really messed with it. But it's my understanding that if you eat bananas in the summer, that everything you eat comes through your pores, and it actually acts as a mosquito attractant, bananas, because it makes you put off more CO2, apparently.
I'm going to call bullshit.
Okay.
I've never heard that one before.
But I've also heard the inverse is if you drink or eat oranges, it actually repels them. Let me see.
I've never heard anything about
I could
that.
be completely wrong.
I mean, I've heard the CO2 thing before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I used to always make a point of, being on the other side of the table from whoever the most talkative one was. And
Wait, say that again? What?
being on the other side of the table, when I'm in a group environment, mosquitoes are out. If I'm on the other side of the table from the person that's the most talkative, they'll attract all the bugs to them because they're talking and exhaling more CO2.
Well, this says I'm not right.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely shocked.
I'm okay with being wrong. It says the claim that eating bananas attracts mosquitoes is a common misconception. There is no scientific evidence to support this claim. Mosquitoes are primarily attracted to body heat, carbon dioxide, and certain chemicals in sweat. They are not attracted to specific foods, including bananas. Okay, I was wrong.
Okay. I mean, I guess I don't see how a banana would make you sweat more CO2, I guess is kind of where I was going at that. So
Then the very first article, National Institutes of Health, Impact of Consumption of Bananas on Attraction. And it says bananas and beer are the only dietary components that have been shown to increase mosquito attraction. You can find something that says whatever you want it to.
I'm about to say, you can, whatever opinion you want to throw out there, you can find. Well, I mean, that's what our whole society's built on right now. I think this way, you think that way. Here's my evidence. There's your evidence. And
I've just always heard that.
I've never heard that one before. I'm not saying it's.
And here's a more recent article, July 22nd, 2024.
Okay. Just because the article's recent doesn't mean that the study is. But my guess is there's probably not a true viable study of much statistical relevance. Maybe one, and all the people pull their pieces out of that one study to support what they think or whatever else.
I've just always heard that. I mean, it would take me way too long to go through all of this because there's so many different articles. But I don't know.
I mean, the reality is, if there's a mosquito or a flea around, it's going to find me.
I mean, there's got to be attributing factors to it, like whether you off-gas more CO2 than most people, or you have something in your diet that comes through your pores.
I think the simple answer is the most likely answer. I think it's probably the sweat quantity.
Yeah.
So if you're a heavy sweater, you're probably more likely to attract more mosquitoes.
That's true. I'm not a sweater at all.
And I'm a heavy sweater.
But I also eat a lot of fresh garlic too.
I do too.
Yeah.
I like garlic.
Me too.
I like garlic a lot. But going back to the Rat 1000 stops list.
Let's do that.
Let's kind of sort of stay on track because we have so many tangents we can cover today. 2, you know what day it is, right?
Wednesday? It is Wednesday, my dude.
Wednesday, June 25th. You know what happens today?
I really don't.
Bear season 4.
Oh, that's right. Heckin' yes. God, I have too much shit to do.
I'm not going to do what I did last year. I'm not going to binge it all. I'm going to spread it. I actually need to rewatch the prior season, at least last year.
Yeah.
Maybe all of them again. I would be okay going through it again. And actually, this does kind of tie into where we're going with this. I think hopefully I can segue all these pieces together today. But Brad had requested the stage stops for the Rat 1000, but I also have included basically all the towns along the way and their mileage overall in the 1,000 miles, but their mileage between each town as well, and then a designation of what a real broad generality of the types of amenities that are available in each of these towns. And those I've broken those down to what I call a hotel town or stage stop. So basically a bigger town with when possible, there's an exception to that, but with as much viable stuff available as possible. Hotels being the main thing for our stage riders that don't want to camp. We've got to make sure they got somewhere they can stay overnight. What I call a Walmart town, it's big enough to support a Walmart, so that should give you an idea. If it's got a Walmart, it's probably got McDonald's and a Dairy Queen and maybe even a Panda Express or a Chipotle, who knows. But a bigger town.
Yeah.
And you have a Walmart, so I don't think any of these towns have a bike shop.
That's crazy.
Texarkana does. Wichita Falls does, but you have to go off route. I don't even know if Sherman's not on the route, but anyway, so that's probably been the biggest thing. There's no bike shops on the routes, but and then what I call
crazy. I've never thought about that. Like, I'm just looking through the list of towns, and I can't think of a bike shop in any of those towns.
Well, but that's part of the allure of we're trying to stay away from the Amarillos and the Fort Worths and the Wichita. Wichita Falls is even too big. Then we have what we call a Dollar General town. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then what I call a store town, and that's the smallest towns, but there's at least a convenience store.
Okay.
It's questionable what the hours of the convenience store may or may not be. Definitely. I'm not going to break down all the amenities for people. I think I'm giving enough information here for people to work with, and they can do their own research from there to fine tune Well, on day 3, I hope to be here, but I need to have access to, I need to refill my prescription. So I need to know that there's a CVS in that town or whatever sort of thing. All right. So mile 0 is Texarkana. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the overnight stage stops first. And then if you have questions about that and how things come together or what you might like to see or be looking for in between, we can talk about it if it's viable or not.
No, this is plenty. This is more than I would have anticipated.
Well, that's the rat structure's always been this way, with the idea that it's not 1,000 miles of wilderness. There's no doubt about this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of safety net on this. This is a focus on knocking out 1,000 miles in multiple days, or as much mileage as you can cover.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to do the full 1,000 miles. Not everyone has the time to do it. If some people want to ride just 3 or 4 days, figure out where you can get to and say, hey, pick me up in Honey Grove, or whatever else. But stage 1, Texarkana to Paris, Texas, is 142 miles. That reminds me, I sent a note and I haven't heard back. I need to check on that. I need to make arrangements for camping there. There are what we've done in the past at the Love Civic Center, which is where the Eiffel Tower is in Texas or in Paris.
Paris.
There's a pavilion on the north side of that, and what we've done in the past is we've been able to. It's a park area, and you can set up a hammock or a tent in the grass outside the pavilion. But if it's raining or you just want the cover over you, you can set up a tent on the slab at the pavilion. Access to restrooms there, water, electricity, things like that. Denison would be night 2. That's 123 miles from Paris. Oh, if I didn't say 142 miles, Texarkana to Paris. Paris to Denison is 123 miles. This is a little bit different stop. This is actually not all the way into Denison. This actually isn't even all the way into Texas, the way I have it, the mileage on that. There's a Army Corps of Engineers camping park on the north side of Lake Texoma in Oklahoma, that up until this year, whenever we've run the rat, they've already had that campground closed in October. There's also a campground at the dam there. That one does still close. This year, the campground on the north side or the Oklahoma campground, I'll call it, is open in October. So, and it's right on the route, sort of thing. The only difference would be, so that'll work for camping, which works for me because my plan is to pull the Spinistry camper all the way across and just have that be the stage rally point each afternoon or evening. If people want to do hotels, they can pedal another 8 or 10 miles into Denison proper.
Yeah.
And get a hotel is kind of the logic behind that one. Henrietta. So Denison to Henrietta would be 141 miles. And that's an RV campground less than a mile away from the Best Western in Henrietta. So best of both worlds there. Next stop is Vernon, 126 miles from Henrietta. Vernon has everything. They even have a Taco Casa in Vernon. So the one thing they don't have is a municipal or county or state campground. In the past, the city of Vernon has let us use a city park for camping, but it also looks like there's a new RV park right there in town. So I might lean towards the RV park this time around. Then from Vernon to Childress is 104 miles. I know that sounds like a short day, but it's intentional. It's basically setting up for the next day, which is mileage a short day, but it's also the red road. So it's probably the toughest day. So, and Childress is it's a Walmart town. It's got everything, plenty of hotels, good restaurants, and there's a municipal campground that we use there. And then Childress to Silverton the next day is 101 miles, but that is the red roads day. And then the climb out of what is the name of that state park there? Below. I'm having a brain fart. Not the Paladura Canyon State Park. It starts with a C. Something Caprock Canyon.
Caprock Canyon.
Yeah. So you
I
climb
knew
up.
it. I was having fun watching you kind of
Fuck
struggle
you.
through that.
You're an asshole. You know that? Making fun of a senior citizen almost.
Oh.
But between the Red Roads and that climb out of Caprock Canyon State Park, well, it's along the perimeter of it, so you don't go into the park itself. A short day is a good thing.
Yeah.
That day. That one ends up in Silverton, which there's a Dollar General in Silverton.
Mm-hmm.
There's a campground with cabins, so that's why we kind of stopped there. There's also a municipal park with some RV spots, so I'm not sure how we'll do. In the past, we've done the campground with the cabins, but the owners we've worked with in the past sold it to another guy, and it just hasn't worked out the past couple years to meet up with him just yet. And then Silverton to Vega is 124 miles. That's another hotel town. There's a hotel there. We're going to have to get creative on camping for Vega. I don't know how that's going to work yet. In the past, there hasn't been a campground, and the city itself has not been amenable to us using the city park. There is an option of another town a few miles further down that may have camping, but I'll probably make a trip to Vega and see if I can figure something out there. And then last day from Vega to Tucumcari, 139 miles. And I'm not setting up a campsite in Tucumcari. My guess is anybody that finishes is going to be ready for a hotel.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's my carrot.
Yeah.
I get to sleep in a hotel in a bed.
Exactly. And there's plenty of hotel and motel options
Yeah.
there. We do recommend the Roadrunner Lodge. They've always been supporters of the Rat, and it's a cool old Route 66 motel. A lot of flavor there. A lot of flavor in Tucumcari in general.
Hey, back to not remembering the name of parks.
Mm-hmm.
What is the one that is in West Texas that is an old rails to trails that goes through the train tunnel?
That's Caprock Canyon.
That is Caprock Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
But we don't use the park. And
You
we
don't use that park,
we
yeah.
don't use that trail.
I couldn't remember what that, if that was that or what.
Yeah, that's Caprock Canyon. So I think that stuff's all used in that Valley of Tears.
Oh yeah.
So they use all that stuff for that route. We tried to utilize that trail the first 2 years of the Rat.
Mm-hmm.
That's between that and the net. The first couple of years of the Rat, that's when we found out we couldn't lean on any of those rails to trails.
Yeah.
We can't lean on any of it being accessible.
What does the net look like now? We're going to do Shadezilla before then?
Yeah, we're doing
Okay.
shit. Well, no, you're going to be gone, I think. You're going to be doing Hut to Hut, aren't you?
Yeah, first week of August.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's Shadezilla week.
Yeah. It's a fair trade.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a Shadezilla Scout in July somewhere.
I'm getting so stoked about Hut to Hut. It's getting real.
So that's final. That's done. That is happening, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're in fact, I was telling Paula last night my final payment's due by the end of the month. And we've already and I thought this was a pretty good deal. For an additional $50, they put 3 beers per person in each hut for 5 nights.
Okay.
That's pretty good. Not that I'm going to drink 3 beers every night, but it would be nice to have a beer. Or 2 beers each night.
Somebody will drink that third beer.
Sure. But I'm excited. They sent us updated GPX files, and it's funny because their emails are so lengthy. There's so much information, and I've been head down trying to figure out menu and logistics and kitchen disasters and stuff that I haven't really read through much of it, but I was skimming through the email that Shannon sent, and they were like, make sure don't use the old GPX because we have relocated one of the huts and you will end up at whatever day it is in the wrong place. And I was like, oh shit, that would suck. I can't imagine riding all day.
And I guarantee you 25% of their participants make that mistake. At least that's been my experience.
Well, I'm fortunate to be with at least 3 or 4 more people in my group that are way more analytical than I am.
And I get that. And maybe I'm not familiar enough with hut to hut. I mean, is it one of those things where everybody that does it with a group of friends, or is it, I'm solo, I'm just going to tag along with whoever else is doing it?
It's my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, just like the banana thing, that you can only purchase it as a package deal. So a minimum of 4 people or whatever? Well, it costs the same amount no matter how many people you do.
Oh, okay. That I wasn't familiar.
You're basically booking each hut. And my understanding is they stagger everybody one day.
Okay.
So when you
all right. So if I want to do it solo, I'm just paying for the whole hut.
But so it works out to roughly $1,000 per person.
Based on how many people, though?
Well, so they were running a special, and I don't even know if it's a special because it seems like they do it every year, but it's 8 people for the price of 7.
Okay. Now you've lost me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not booking the whole thing. It is booking slots.
But what I'm saying is, I think you have to pay the 8-person price.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess.
So if you wanted to do it solo, it would cost you like $8,000. That's what I'm saying.
But it's 8 people for the price of 7, so $7,000.
Yeah, it was something like that.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I was trying to narrow it down. That's where.
Yeah.
When either you're buying the whole thing or you're not. So that's so basically they're reducing their price by 12% or something like that.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Okay. I was just trying to. It's all marketing speak. I get it.
Yeah.
You gotta trick it up.
Yeah.
You gotta. Okay. So.
But I am stoked. Period.
So and how many stops is it? How many overnights is it?
I believe it's 6.
6.
Yeah.
So.
The 7th day we end in. So.
We have the 7th day and overnight, or so it's 6 overnights and a 7th day of riding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we end in Moab.
You hearing that?
Cleaner pump.
Oh, okay.
Kicked in. But the Houston contingent is pulling out at Paradox. So they have a 5-day and they have a 7-day.
Okay.
And so we have a DFW group. And then we have a Houston group. So we have 4 and 4.
Okay.
And the Houston guys are doing the 5-day, and then the 4 of us are going to continue on to do the last 2 days.
Okay.
Because I tried to talk Shannon into it.
If you're going to do it, you got to do the whole boat.
Especially when you look at the profiles, the final day is the whole enchilada. It's going to be a long-ass day.
Right.
But it's downhill for the most part, the whole day. And you end in Moab. I can't wait. I'm so excited. And I was talking to Shannon about this yesterday morning. We were having coffee. And I said, the funny thing is, I haven't committed a lot of time to hut because I'm just committed to going. I'm going to do it. You know?
Right.
Unfortunately, I'd already downloaded the GPX files into my Garmin because I was excited and I wanted to go ahead and get them on there. And now I got to go back and redo that. But I was like, I haven't really spent much time poring over it and everything. And much like your little list, not little, sorry, list.
My stuff's been called little before.
Oh, wait. Adam sent me this spreadsheet. from this guy that has done hut to hut before.
Right.
And as people do, it is incredibly detail oriented. And I haven't had a chance to really sit down and give it its due time, but it has every piece of equipment he took and the weight and where he stored it, including his bike, what bike he rode, the setup, what it weighed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a Excel spreadsheet, so it also has whether or not the item was used. I mean, it's pretty insane. So, excuse me, I'm planning on spending a little time with that, but I told him, get back to the reason I was saying this, told him, I said, the funny thing is I'm not worried about hut to hut. Like, for whatever reason, call it delusion, but I'm not that worried about it. I'm worried about race across Texas. Like, I'm worried about riding 100+ miles every day.
Every day.
And
that's
it's just something I haven't done.
That's the challenges. And I mean, that is the challenge of the rat. There's no doubt about that. But it's not the physical aspect of it. It's the mental aspect of it.
I think I'm way more mentally strong than I am physically strong.
That's what I'm trying to explain. It's
yeah.
You are plenty physically strong to accomplish it. I know that just where you're at now, you could do it no problem, assuming that you pace yourself correctly and don't do anything stupid during the course of a couple. It's not any given day, but a couple, 3 days in a row. If you do something stupid, that's where
I'm going to do stupid shit.
I understand. You can do separate stupid shit each day, but it's the things that compound on top of each other.
Yeah.
That's when it gets problematic.
Yeah.
Where the rat, there's two places where the rat gets most people. It's the head and the butt.
Yeah. And that's where I was going with that. Because, like, with hut to hut, it's a totally different game. The average, I think, is like 32 miles a day, but it's Colorado miles. It's trail.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to think you're on the trail, so you're in and out of the saddle a lot.
It's a lot different effect on the butt.
Yeah. And so that's been part of my thought process. I have a lot of thought processes leading up to events like this. And I've, in recent times, I've been riding almost exclusively seated, but I'm also getting to the point where I want to start doing a lot of standing efforts too, just to oscillate everything. But I don't know. But then these conversations seem ridiculous when we talk about, I already forgot his name again. The guy that
SG.
Yeah, did
RG, Robin, right?
Yeah, Robin, that's right. The guy that did Tour Divide, he's riding 225 miles a day, and I'm like, surely I can ride 110,
Like I said, I have no doubt that you can do that mileage each day.
Yeah.
The question is the butt thing, but you can determine that if you can put together a 75 to 100 mile day, and then a 50 to 75 mile day, and then another 75 to 100 mile day.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that 3-day weekend on your rat rig loaded, and you come out of that and your butt's fine, your butt's good.
Yeah.
And that's also going to give you an idea of what you need to work on mentally.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the full thing, but it'll let you know the shit that starts getting into your head that causes those distractions.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You don't see it until it gets there, and
I know
that's the big mental thing of the rat is. It's for everyone. It's something different, but people get a thing in their head.
Mm-hmm. And
it's shit when you're doing that 120 miles a day and you're out there by yourself. You get it. It goes out of your mind for a couple hours and then it comes back.
Yeah,
is all. That's all I'm getting at, and it doesn't get everybody. It's usually tied in with some bad weather, or my butt is, I do have that damn saddle sore that I wasn't wanting, or I didn't get a
Yeah.
good night. It's when you start, those holes of Swiss cheese start lining up, and just like an airplane crash, it's not one little thing, it's the combination of things. But the two big ones on the rat are butt and head.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
I'm in by no means cocky at all when it
No,
comes
I'm
to
not,
this. Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. Physically, you're ready to do the rat right now, physically.
I'm glad you think so.
I mean, you're riding every day. That's really all
Yeah.
it takes. Now, if you go out and you try to, if you say, oh, well, I want to do each of these days at an average 14 miles an hour or whatever. When you start setting arbitrary objectives, that's where a lot of people, that's where their head starts going haywire. They say, oh, I got to be done by this day, or
No.
I don't want to ride more, or I want to be in Vernon by this time, or what. When they start setting those arbitrary objections and they don't meet them, or it's obvious they're not going to, objectives, not objections.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. I corrected you in my head.
Thank you. That cascade effect starts
Yeah.
coming in, and people get caught up in shit that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's my, I guess, by design, yet not stated, really. That's why I have not put any objectives on this whole thing for me. My only goal, like I said before, is to start and to finish.
Yep.
And to sleep outside every night it's viable. That's my main objective. I don't care about timeline. I don't care about, a pace. I don't care. I mean, I don't care if Raj Connie passes me. I'm just out there doing my thing. I just want to do it.
Sure.
I have nothing to prove to anybody except for myself. And I'm not even doing it for the sense of accomplishment. I'm doing it because I want to do it. I want to, more than anything, I want to see stuff.
Yep.
And I want the stories. I want the experience. I want, just everything that comes with it, the trials, the tribulations, and the rewards.
Perfect. You are what you stated there. That is exactly what I built this around. That's the objective that I had in mind, and most people that do write it are pretty much on that same page. But there's definitely people that have a different thought process, and it's like, that's fine. You can, hey, you want to set an FKT, go for it.
Yeah,
you go do that. That's not part of my package.
Yeah.
I'm not building that to be who's going to be the fastest and complete. The idea is who wants to do something and have an experience and have stories to tell, and hopefully build their capabilities and their skill set. So if they want to do something even next level from that, we help them get there. But if the rat is somebody's ultimate carrot, hey, I'm happy to support that. There's no doubt about it.
It's just, I've wanted to do it ever since you put it together. So
I'm excited that you guys are doing it. That
it's been way too long.
So I'm committing now based on our conversation last week about it. And yes, if you set your own schedule, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to hold you to it, but I'm committing now that I will go stage stop to stage stop in the Spinistry mobile with the Spinistry camper, and I'm going to stay at whatever the designated campsite is for the stage each night is my current plan. And so what I'm going to, as the stage stop, yeah, we can time the stage segments if people want to keep track of it that way. We're not presenting it as a stage race per se, but if somebody wants to do their cumulative for each stage, that's fine. But what I will do is anybody that's a titanium member, a part of that titanium benefit is, hey, if you want me to shuttle your gear from stop to stop, I'll do that. I'll make sure there's some Spinistry chow at the camper at the end of each ride. And
No, we're not going to turn this into a chef's kiss.
No, because you're riding your bike.
No, just kidding.
But you touched. Okay, so thank you for the segue.
Yeah.
And you know, I talked about coming into this. This is all going to tie together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, let's do a little reminder.
This bill legalizes sawed-off shotguns.
Okay, so big news over the weekend as far as the SB3 Texas THC.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Abbott vetoed it,
Yeah.
which actually
Surprised me.
It very definitely surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not making this a political thing by any stretch of the imagination. I promise this all ties together. Because, well, we don't know what that looks like yet. So they're going to have a special session and figure out what the regulations are around it. But I think it's safe to say that THC in some form or another is going to be around in Texas going forward.
I'm a fan. I think it's been a long time coming, and it's ridiculous that they're just gatekeeping and just it's ridiculous.
Again, I'm not going on the political side of it. Let's just go with the practical side of it. THC is legal in Texas now.
Yeah. Why are we outsourcing it? That's the thing.
Well, that's
Well, yeah.
Personally, I'm a fan of the Delta 9 drinks myself. That's like my ideal delivery method.
Yeah.
And I don't get high. It's just numb the pain a little bit, chill out a little bit. And I mean, one can last me 2 evenings sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that. Other people are welcome to do whatever they want to with it. That's perfectly fine. Where I'm going with that, though, so we have this change in THC legislation. I don't know if you're aware of this or not. Texas also has huge changes in its cottage food laws that go into effect September 1st.
No, I haven't heard anything about that.
I just found out about it over the past week, and I'm stoked. I am stoked because I was talking about tying everything all together. I've been kind of on the spinistry side of things, kind of been treading water for the past couple of years, trying to. I knew I wanted to take it to another phase and do different things, and still do some of the same stuff, but I want to do these chef's kiss. I want to do what I'm calling spinistry experiences, sort of thing. And obviously the food aspect of it is a big deal. The new cottage food laws, basically anything that's home prepared outside of meat, meat and fish, you can sell that as cottage food in Texas now. And you can also resell it through retailers. So I can wholesale it to. Before cottage food, you had to sell direct. So if I made cupcakes or cookies and I'm selling those, I have to sell them at my stand or at the farmer's market, or people come to my door and buy it, right? Now I can go to Whole Foods and wholesale my cottage food cupcakes to them, and they can resell it.
Yeah. And before you couldn't advertise either. There was some advertising.
I think that's been out of the mix for some time.
Okay.
Now, I don't know. They go into effect September 1st, the new laws and regulations around the cottage food industry. But here's what I want to do, and I'm hoping you would like to partner up with me on it. But if you don't, I'm going to at least lean on you for advice.
I'm in.
Okay. So I want to come up with basically, based on the Texas cottage food guidelines, I'm calling them travel meals and travel snacks, because obviously they're going to be geared towards overnight bikepacking adventures, but I want it to be appropriate for anybody that's doing, even if you're not riding a bike, if you just want to go camping or whatever, we got, but I don't know what the format is. Is it just frozen stuff that's vacuum sealed that you reheat? Do we get into freeze drying and stuff? And I don't know yet, but I want to start with basic and accessible.
Yeah.
And build from there over time. I've
looked at freeze dryers numerous times, but they're so ridiculously expensive.
They are expensive, and they are not efficient for mass production.
No.
Well, the ones that are.
Yeah. Well, like it's been a while since I've looked, but I think the most reasonable one that wasn't just tiny is like $2,500, and I can't,
yeah.
I can't remember how many.
And that's 5 trays, and
Yeah.
and that's still to freeze dry those 5 trays of food. That's 24 to 48 hours of freeze drying.
Yeah, you're not just throwing and
for
going.
maybe 10 meals.
Yeah. So it's something that I dabbled, like was interested in, but it quickly became like, I don't have anywhere to store another piece of equipment because those pieces of equipment are large.
Yeah.
And then B, it's time and money. I just couldn't make it make sense. I mean, even if I was able to make stuff and sell it,
Right.
it's still, I don't know how.
So, I mean, I want to start pretty simple and basic and just expand from there as I'm gonna go ahead and start using the Royal We, since you say you're in, as we learn things and get feedback on things. I want to start with just a basic calorie mix, and Spinistry wind or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to come up with some cookies, bars, stuff that just bag stuffers, and I want to build it around, macros and specific calorie targets. And obviously I want it to be tasty.
Yeah.
But something that stores, but I also want to come up with bike packing meals, whatever that looks like. And maybe it starts out where it's a frozen or refrigerated meal that on these Spinistry adventures, these Spinistry experiences, I'm at the end point and I'm keeping it cool in the cooler while the people ride to it, but they've bought their meals and I'm just holding them for them, sort of thing.
We need to whiteboard this.
Oh, very, very. But you're on board with the rough idea there?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is literally something that just came together in the past 15 hours for me in my head.
I definitely want to talk about
clicked.
it. My bandwidth is a little narrow right now.
Understood. So here's the deal. You and Caleb are going to be the beta testers on the rat.
Okay.
So we'll have a full menu of some basic stuff available by then. And I want it to be around real food because we've talked about it before, and you kind of touched on it with, I don't think concern's the right word, but somewhere you needed to get ready for the rat is where you needed to set up to be leaning more on real food as opposed to your drink mix sort of thing.
Well, in the middle of you talking about all that, I had this little epiphany. I was like, I could just have Kevin carry a massive amount of tailwind for me, and I could just refill, because I carry a little.
Hypothetically,
I carry a little coffin or whatever they call it, and it has a scoop in it. I was like, I could just have enough tailwind to at least get me halfway through each day.
Shift drink.
Yeah. Drinkless. But I don't know. Would that give me an asterisk if I did that?
That's the beauty of group to part week and stage week. There are no asterisks applied for the official stage support.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you want to slap your own asterisk on it, you're welcome to. I'm not gonna put an asterisk on it.
Yeah.
And we've had people that have used that as, you know what? I appreciate the stage approach, and that taught me everything I needed to know. Now I want to go out and do it again on my own.
So I'm not completely closed to that idea, but as it sits right now, let's not put the cart before the horse. I just want to do it.
No,
and then I'll make an assessment afterwards. But as it sits in my head right now, I want to do it, and I don't really have a desire to do it again. But that may very well change, because I remember our conversation with Nipper forever ago when, he did the divide, and then he's like, I could go back and do, and it just kind of ate at his brain, and was like, well, I know I could shave time here and here and here, but I'm not a fast guy.
I understand.
So
I mean,
I don't have a desire to.
yeah. How many people are there that went to Leadville, got their buckle, and the idea that that's going to be it, and then they keep going back year after year?
Yeah.
How many people go back to Unbound year after year? I just need to experience it. Need to do it the first time. And once I'm not saying the rat's like that for everyone. Everybody keys on different things, and that's the thing. Once you complete something, lots of people go, okay, I had no intention of doing that again, but I do want to do it again.
Yeah.
And you have different objectives.
Well,
right now, your objective is to complete it.
Yeah. So what I would like to do, in my mind, and this is all just nonsense at this point, but I would like to do rat, see what that's like on my body and my mind and, everything else, logistics and all that business, and then figure out, turn around and do Tasha,
You could do it the next month.
Yeah.
We could make that happen.
I'm self-employed though,
Well, that's what
my boss doesn't tell me. My boss doesn't tell me no, but my bank account does.
That's why it all comes together.
Yeah.
Because with these Spinistry experiences and Spinistry chow, or whatever we call it, ShiftLess chow, or whatever these travel meals and snacks that we come up with, that's the package of, all right, I'm going to be there point to point to point, and you just go ahead and you buy $300 worth of food from us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have all those meals there.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll make sure that we can't do meat in these meals, but you know what? If I'm grilling steaks and you want to throw an extra steak in with your meal, you can.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But we use these experiences, these events, as fuel for the fuel.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
I get it. I like it.
What I like the idea of on the reseller aspect of it, I know a couple bike shops that would love for us to get a group of 50 people there that wanted to try samples of Spinistry. I'm just going to say Spinistry chow just to simplify it. And where maybe, hey, what's left over, they'll go ahead and they'll resell that. Mm. But if we get 50 people there looking at bikepacking bikes and gear and stuff like that, they'll be happy to sell our drink mix or whatever else too. I don't know. I'm just playing with really loose ideas right now.
That leads me to another thought process. We've talked about multiple factions of the bicycle industry growing and receding. Do we think that bikepacking is at least stable? Or is it on the grow, or is it on the recession, or?
That's a good question. I think stable is safe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's receding, and I think it has grown.
Yeah.
I don't think the growth aspects for it are tremendous.
Yeah.
Which is why I want to make it outdoor specific as opposed to bikepacking specific. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what I also like about this model is it allows me to be nimble and, I didn't realize this was a thing. Let's throw that into the mix. Or I thought this was going to be a thing and nobody's interested in it.
Yeah.
Get rid of that one. We can, it's easily scalable if we find something that has traction to it, sort of thing. Mm. Whereas everything, you try to do everything else, it's like you got to commit on the front end to, well, like you said, the freeze dryer. So I've got to commit to $50,000 worth of equipment to do that, to even think about doing it, and it may not fly.
I just had maybe a great idea, just at first thought. What if it was all vacuum seal, sous vide style meals? That's
kind of what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah. Because I like that better than freeze dried. You can remove all the oxygen. You could freeze them.
That's what I'm leaning towards for the Spinistry experience meals for the rat, Tasha, and things like that. those will be, my idea is that those will be vacuum sealed frozen meals that can be sous vide or reheated somehow or another. Obviously, the sous vide or the hot water approach is probably the easiest because that's completely scalable. If you're doing it for 3 people, I can use a small pot. If I got 30 people, I just have a tub sort of thing.
But I'm thinking about the mobility of it and the time function. Like, it's very feasible for you to have a cooler with hot water, and when you close the lid, it stays hot. So you're not getting to a stop and having to reheat it. You just put the sous vide back in, bring it up to temperature, put your food in. I'm just trying to think these little things through.
That's is that new?
That is very new.
Leonard just hopped up in the extra chair and made himself comfortable.
He's an official guest.
Yeah. He's not mic'd up, though. I don't know that I've ever seen him relax before, to be honest with you. He's always moving.
He has separation anxiety.
Okay.
Like, that's why I had to hold him while Paula left. And then he just wants to be next to you, you know? He's like, unless he's distracted and looking at something else, he's like, where's mom or dad? Where's mom or dad? Where's mom or dad? So, like, when maybe too much information, but when I go to the restroom, he wants to be in the bathroom.
Yep.
You know?
All right, I have to tell this story. This goes way back in the Wayback Machine. And this could be the downside to Leonard following you into the bathroom, but I'm thinking if it hasn't kicked in yet. So back in the day, when I was a young single college guy, my first dog on my own was his name was Buddy, and he was a pound puppy, of course. I'm a pound puppy type guy. Black Lab Pit Bull mix, fantastic dog, one of the best dogs ever. But I got him as a tiny puppy. And I was a solo guy, living in my 1-bedroom apartment, going to FSU. And we did everything together. And Buddy very much followed me into the bathroom whenever I was doing my business. And I was fine with that. Over time, somewhere along the way, Buddy decided one of the main plants in Florida, they're called ilex shillings. They're these small-leaved bushes that they're about yay high, and they get trimmed into these round balls, and fairly thick with their brush. Basically, they have a similarity to a toilet. So Buddy, whenever he saw an ilex shilling, he would tiptoe and put his ass over the top and shit on the top of the ilex. This went on his whole life. And Jan's folks, when I started dating her, they had a whole row of ilex shillings.
Oh my gosh.
At the front of their house.
Cue embarrassment.
It turned into a thing. And so there was this Amico station in Ocala that we'd stop at it just was coincidental. We always stopped there, going between Tampa and Lake City, back and forth. We'd always stop at that Amico to get snacks and gas up. And every time we'd stop there, they had a row of ilex shillings out by the road. And we'd go there, and there'd be piles of shit on top of these ilex shillings. And Buddy would always find the one that didn't have one, and he'd christen the next one.
Jeez.
I hadn't thought about that in forever. Thank you. I miss my buddy boy, my bud dog.
I had a dog, my first dog as a solo man, right before I met Paula. Actually, I think we may have been dating. That's you. Was a little...
That might be my Paris.
Dachshund. Dachshund? Dachshund? However you say it.
Carl dog. Wiener dog.
But it was she was didn't have a black nose, had like a pink nose and pink tongue, which a lot of dachshunds have, black nails and,
Yeah.
they're dark. And she was like honey colored. Her name was Abita. And I had a waterbed at the time. This tells you how old this was. Old school, like no baffle waterbed. It was just like, and I lived in an upstairs apartment, which is highly illegal. And it was a California king beyond all things. So imagine the weight of that thing. In retrospect, I'm like, I can't imagine. Like, I never thought about this as a young kid.
Right.
I always worried about what if it sprung a leak. I never thought about if the weight actually collapsed the flooring system. But she slept in the bed with me, like would lay right next to me. And if I turned over, she would jump over and lay right next to me again. But that dog took a shower with me every day. Like, I would get in the shower and she would just stand on the edge of the tub until I let her in, and she would stand underneath me and just love the water, and I would lather her up, and then I would get out and dry off, and she would just wait, and I would get her out and dry her off. And one day when I was at work, I left her. So I lived in an apartment, but we had a backyard. I don't know. They were almost like townhouses because we had a downstairs and upstairs. And we had a fenced-in backyard, just tiny little thing. I mean, it was the size of this, minus the deck, maybe. And I left her outside when I went to work, and I came home, and somebody had stolen my dog.
Oh, my God.
It still makes me mad.
Oh, my God.
She was a great dog. But that was my first dog story.
I'm
But
so sorry.
yeah, I mean, people are shitty, and dogs aren't. But, sorry, I didn't mean to bring it
No, that's
down.
all right. Look at Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're a good boy today. You didn't jump on me once.
Oh, speaking of which, yesterday, I was getting out of bed, or Paula and I were having a meeting, and we were going over logistics and stuff, and him and Lucy started fighting in the bed, and I wasn't paying attention, and all of a sudden, he just waylaid me. It felt like a grown man punching me. And, I mean, he didn't mean anything by it, but
No.
jeez,
He's got some strength to him.
he is stout. So can we talk about the bicycle that you brought by the house the other day?
Sure.
Okay. How did our tubeless conversion hold up? Everything fine?
Seem to do quite well. I need to
curious
check on
about it.
it again today. Make sure it's not.
Did you bring a bike with you today?
I did not.
Okay.
I have to get back to my dogs before I can go out and ride a bike.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I forgot. So did you ride the Brompton?
I did.
Where'd you go?
I did the green belt.
Okay.
I did do the green belt. Got in about 55 minutes or so, which I was wanting 45 to 60 minutes. So that worked out pretty well.
How much air did you end up letting out of the tires?
I need to check how much I did. I went ahead and I rode all the way north at the 50 pounds.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just to see what it was like
Yeah.
and just to let everything swirl around at full pressure.
Sure.
And like just before I got to the parking lot at the north, there's that one section right before it's got some bigger chunk riprap type stuff. As you're about to cross the creek there or the spillway or whatever it is. And that was a little jarring. And it reminded me that, let me let a little bit of air out. So I did probably 4 taps, whatever, maybe 6-8 pounds.
Yeah.
Is my guess.
Those are smaller tires.
There's
so
and that's the thing.
a little is going to go a long way in a 20-inch wheel.
Yeah, I mean, it went from it's firm to it's softer.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Takeaway though, little pinprick right there. That front Schrader valve had like a barb on it, so I did.
Oh.
And it poked my finger just like when you're getting the blood test. Just like, that sucked.
That is wild.
So what Brad's talking about and this is part of all this shit tying together as well. I have acquired a Brompton G Line, which is the Brompton 20-inch wheeled gravel trifold bike. And Brad was gracious enough to let me utilize him in his garage, and we converted it to tubeless Monday.
Probably one of the easiest tubeless conversions I've ever done.
It comes tubeless ready, literally.
Yeah.
Tubeless tires and
100% agree.
And good to go. Basically, we just stuffed valves in it and put some sealant, and it was essentially good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And agreed. Easiest tubeless conversion I've ever been involved with at any one time. But that was also part of why I wanted to do it on the front end too, because I didn't know what the rim setup was. So I didn't want to ride around on tubes for a couple 100 miles and maybe mess up whatever their rim strip or whatever might have been. I didn't know what the setup was. So
yeah, that was super easy. And surprisingly, those tires were they seated extremely well, but they also were easy to manipulate off the rim. They weren't like super tight. And I didn't notice, I guess those are hooked rims, they have to be, but so easy. I think you almost could have done those with a floor pump, no problem.
Possibly.
But the real trick to me is only unseating one side. You know, that's what a lot of people have a problem with setting up tubeless, and what they're doing is they're starting with a tire that's off the rim.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they put it on, they're trying to seat both sides. The benefit of how yours was is we were able to only unseat one bead on one side and manipulate that off and take the tube out. So we had the benefit of one side already fully seated, and it stayed seated. And so once I put the valve in and put the bead back around and put the sealant in, we only had to worry about seating one side, and it was super easy, especially with the compressor, and just it was super easy.
And only 20 inches of wheel.
Yeah.
That makes it easier too.
Yeah, it was super easy. I was very impressed. It was the only thing that made it difficult's not the right word, but was how freaking balmy hot it was.
Mm.
So,
well, I mean, and figuring out it's a internally geared rear hub, so just figuring out that setup.
Yeah, it was definitely, I've never messed with something like that before, but once I understood it,
he refused to follow the directions. He wanted to figure it out on his own, and he did.
Well,
he did a good job of it.
I like to know how things work. Much like your seat post deal, that video you sent me.
Yep.
Makes perfect sense. That's pretty smart. You know, I like the fact that there's no, you don't have to cut the seat post or anything. It's just that insert. And obviously you can buy replacements for that. So if you decided you wanted a different length or you wanted to sell it to somebody and they had a different setup, you could just replace that one piece.
Right.
That's pretty freaking smart. There's a lot of really smart things on those bikes. And that internally geared hub, I get it that it's a Shimano, but very intuitive once I figured it out. Once I dicked with it a little bit. But
the biggest learning on it is stop pedaling to shift.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I understand. When you ride it for an extended time, you'll and the first time I rode it, I didn't have it fully indexed. Fully indexed makes a difference too. But at least the Shimano internally geared hubs, you're supposed to stop pedaling as you actually shift.
I didn't know that.
Or
That's
at least,
a different thought process.
At least take the load off. So definitely no shifting under load. But it is a different thought process. But when it's fully indexed like it is now,
as opposed to you keep saying, you said fully indexed. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Remember the sight hole with the two yellow lines that lined up? When I rode it on Sunday, the short ride around, they were off a little. I didn't fine tune it. I indexed it to where they were close and took it for a ride. But then after that ride, I really dialed it in and got them right next to each other. And there, just that little bit of indexing all the way made a noticeable difference on the shift.
Okay. Huh. That's a cool bike. I have, you know, the first one you brought over, I can't remember what it was, but it was cool. This one, very cool, including the paint job. That paint is freaking gorgeous. It almost, it reminds me of an updated version of the old Schwinn homegrowns.
Okay.
How those had the bass boat flake in them, except for this one is like current times. It's a muted. It's not a glossy finish. It's a matte finish. So in the shade, it just looks like a what they call like a Nardo orange or something. And then in the sun, it's got all that fleck and flake, and it shimmers, and it's sexy. Dare I say sexy? But I like all the little touches, like the grip underneath the seat. I'm like, dude, I could use that on just a bikepacking rig. You know, when you're picking up your bike and you're going over something, you know?
Yep.
But I also like the Ergon style Brompton grips. Pretty cool. I think the internally geared hub is probably a great move on that bike. And the fact that it has 20-inch wheels versus 16, and those tires were actually looked pretty capable, you know?
So far, they seem to be.
They were tan sidewall, and you know how I feel about that.
I know.
But, you know, it is what it is.
I just won't let Caleb touch it. We'll be fine.
The other question that I was thinking of that I didn't think of at the time, but the pedal setup, does that preclude you from using other pedals? Because it's a proprietary, at least on the non-drive side, it's a quick release pedal.
Correct.
So unless you were going to do, I don't know, I think it was White Industries used to make foldable pedals. There's people that make foldable pedals.
Brompton does foldable pedals on its other setups.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a different. So what Brad's referencing is when you fold the bike, the non-drive side pedal sticks out as a pedal. So that's going to reduce the packability of it. So Brompton's solution to that is that it's a removable pedal. It's got a quick release. You can pop it out of the crank arm and then you stow it away. And so that narrows it by what, 4 or 5 inches or whatever. Or 10 inches in Bradland. But anyway, but that quick release setup doesn't allow, to the best of my knowledge, I can't see how it would allow you to use any other pedal there. And I would consider that. I get it and I'm fine with it, but I would consider it a I would like to use better pedals.
Yeah, that was my thought process. This is my only like takeaway gripe, is that it seemed like you were kind of shoehorned into using those pedals, and those are nylon bodied pedals, and I would not want those.
Understood. And my ideal setup would be something different. There may be a workaround that I'm just not aware of at the moment. I haven't, and that's kind of where I'm going with this bike. The intent is, I already have things that I think I would like to change up, but I want to be proven that I need to change those up before I actually. So that's what I like to ride bikes out of the box when I get a complete bike.
I like to ride bikes too.
Yeah. And I like to go, oh, that is a shortcoming of this bike that needs to be addressed. And once I find shortcomings, that's when I start upgrading things. Or when I break shit, that's when I upgrade it, sort of thing. So pedals are near the top of the list of things I think I would really prefer to change.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go ahead and let the bike prove that to me.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, even if it was just a lower stack height, if you will, on the pedal. Like if you could get well, first of all, I would not want a plastic pedal, but I would want, like an aluminum and alloy body pedal, and with a shorter stack, a narrower top to bottom pedal.
Yeah.
But much like any other, facet, there is an entire subculture of Brompton.
Oh,
it's a cult almost.
And I'm making a point to stay away from that.
Yeah, don't get influenced at first until you have questions that you can't answer on your own.
Exactly. I want to discover my own issues and not have preconceived notions on stuff.
I'm sure Reddit has pages and pages and pages of Brompton stuff.
I'm sure they do.
I was surprised when you told me that they're made in England. I don't know why, but in my mind they were German for whatever reason.
Okay.
It was just ignorance on my part, obviously. So that was interesting to me, but then it made more sense. Even in Germany it makes sense too, but it's set up to be a commuter bike.
It's
like ride your bike to the train.
Yep, 50 years ago it was built to be a London specific bike.
Yeah, like ride your bike to the train, take the train to the stop, ride your bike to work, fold it up, put it next to your desk or wherever, and then repeat the process and backwards on the way home. I think it's a really cool concept. There's obviously a market for it, and the fact that Brompton has like 6 or 7 models or plus, just proves that. But I think it's London is the setting. Like if you lived in downtown Dallas, I think it makes sense too. Or if you're commuting to and from downtown Dallas and using the
if you utilize mass transit, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but just for like urban riding and riding from your house and stuff, doesn't really make a lot of sense. I love it. I love the concept and everything, but like as you left yesterday, I was like, I have no need for a bike like that, but I love the concept. I love that it exists.
Yes.
But it's got a lot of cool attributes that, that's the old man in me going, that's very practical, So.
And you're hitting on you're really touching on the reasons why I pulled the trigger on this one.
Mm-hmm.
The one I had before, the demo one, was their traditional, no, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah.
Their traditional commuter.
Yeah.
And it has shortcomings as a bicycle, but
well, 16-inch wheels are part of it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It is not a multi-surface bicycle by any stretch of the imagination. It was extremely twitchy.
Mm-hmm.
But it all makes sense. I'm not saying those as negatives. That's for the use case. It's a requirement sort of thing. For traveling and specifically when I'm using the camper,
mm-hmm.
that was my biggest takeaway. It was like we had a trip to Shelby that we were scouting routes and so forth and had the dogs with us, took the camper down. It wasn't practical for me to load a bike, but I was able to put the Brompton in the storage in the camper,
mm-hmm.
and I was able to go out and do my riding everyday rides.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, man, that was a big deal. It's like, that was eye-opening. It's like, oh, this covers a lot of bases. And the reality is, what did put me over the top was Chef's Kiss weekend. Me trying to take my bike and all that other shit.
Mm-hmm.
It turned it into more of a ordeal than I would have preferred to. Like I said, I actually prefer to be. I liked riding bikes with y'all that morning. Don't get me wrong. That part I did like.
That timber rattler, that was worth everything.
Agreed. But when I'm doing an event, when I'm doing an experience, when I'm doing a ride, my head's not there to be out on the course.
Yeah.
I want to support the event, but it still would have made sense for me to have my camper and do things that way. And like we're talking about doing the Rat and Tasha semi-supported, I'm going to have the camper. It's not practical for me to pack a bike and the camper.
Why don't you just go full-blown Jay Clark and get a hitch receiver on the front of the truck and just do a single rack? It's legal. It's very practical.
It's not practical.
It looks dumb.
It's not practical. And it's in a lot of places it's actually not legal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it obscures the driver's view.
Hmm.
But it's not my style.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Suffice it to say.
I actually did used to ride around Tampa in my first Jeep with my bike on the front because it had the spare tire back there. So I couldn't.
So how'd you get your bike on the front there?
I used one of those trunk racks.
Holy shit.
It worked perfectly because you had the big gap on the hood.
Yeah.
And you had the eyelets.
Yeah.
That when you fold down the windshield.
Yeah. I'm tracking.
So you were able to really secure it up front there. And then you had the
I'm not worried about the rack being secure. I'm worried about those are the main rack that I've seen bikes fall off of. But as I'm thinking about it, it's going to default towards the vehicle, so it's not going to have a tendency to fall forward.
Right. And that's one. It's the most secure setup that I've ever done. A trunk mount rack. It was, completely stable.
Yeah.
And secure. And it's like you said, the bike always
deferred to the front. Towards the vehicle.
Yeah.
God, that would make me nervous though. All I can think is if the bike falls off, you're running over it.
Understood. But the rack was always on the Jeep, and that was back in the days when I wasn't out riding my bike every day or going out and riding. I would take my bike to the beach.
Yeah.
And pedal around the causeway or whatever else.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. That was the use for that. So
that's interesting solution.
Yeah, you know me. I just do my thing.
Yeah. Did you ever get hassled for carrying a bike like that by any police or anything?
No, never once. Never once. And
but all the funny looks, I'm sure.
Lots of looks, and I was okay with that. You should have seen what my wardrobe was like those days. I obviously didn't care about funny looks. I can
imagine just by the fashionista style that you always show up in that you were less refined back then, and it just makes me giggle.
I was like punk rock Miami Vice at the time, so
white blazer.
Dead Kennedys meet Don Johnson,
Yeah, so good. So I was looking at Bromptons as you were talking, and they do, in fact, make 5 different bikes.
But within those 5 different main models, there's so many variations.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
They have a titanium single speed.
Oh, it's a single speed?
They have a single speed version of that's
the T line.
The T, right.
12 speed, 4 speed, 1 speed, 16.4 pounds. That's pretty impressive. I don't know that I would want to single speed that thing though.
Because that's 16-inch wheels.
Yeah.
Now, if they came out with a Thai G Line single speed, sub 20 pounds, I would. So
no.
I have lots more riding to do on this bike before I make a final determination.
Mm-hmm.
But just riding it on the green belt, man, I'm having bad old man concussion head shit these days. Just riding it on the green belt, which I'm fairly familiar with. I was very pleased with how the bike rode. Now, there's no doubt I've seen YouTube videos from, it rides just like a traditional bike. No,
I don't believe that.
No, but you remember how that first Brompton, the 16-inch one, rode nothing like a regular bike. It rode very Brompton,
I felt like the bear at the circus riding the tricycle.
Basically, yeah. And the 20-inch one, the G Line, it definitely rides much more like a traditional bike, but you definitely know you're on a Brompton.
Yeah.
But it is much more stable. But I can also see where you could lose it really quickly, sort of thing. So, like talking about, well, I want to prove to myself the changes I need to make. It's like I was playing with it in my head. It's like, I wonder if I could do comfort sticks on this, how I would go about that. And then one ride on it's like, I don't know that I would ever want to do that. It's not as twitchy as the 16-inch Brompton, where it's like, I'm never going to take both hands off this wheel.
Right.
I don't know that I would ever be comfortable on the G Line in a traditional elbows position. I don't think so. So that's one that that's on the back shelf now. I'm not even going to think about putting aero bars on it at this time.
Speaking of aero bars, that's one of the things, I'm constantly looking at stuff. Where'd it go? That's one of the things I was looking at. I'm thinking I need a new piece of equipment for Rat.
Okay.
Where did it go? I have too many windows open. Caleb would yell at me. What the cuss? Oh, sorry. This makes for great radio. I forgot the name of it now.
Is it an aero bar?
Yes.
Okay. Who makes it?
Cockpit. Revelate.
Oh,
they're
Revelate makes aero bars now?
No. Handlebar. There it is. Come on. The Pitchfork. That's it. The aero bar system.
Oh, okay.
Because I was just thinking earlier.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to configure everything for Rat. And also, I want something that obviously is a little bit more aero. And I do fully intend to run aero bars. And I think with aero bars and a traditional handlebar bag, which right now I have the pronghorn, and the way I have my bars set up, I'm very limited to the amount of space that I can take up with that bag, because I adapted the Dylan Johnson kind of aspect where
you turn them in.
My hoods are turned in, and it's so
not
much,
UCI legal anymore.
so much more comfortable, because your natural position is here on those hoods versus here. It's a lot less stress on your forearms, and you have a lot more controllability.
Okay, I follow the logic.
But the internal has now changed.
Yep.
I mean, probably easily ate away 3 inches of distance. So with Chef's Kiss, I didn't even carry that much stuff. But what I had to do is I took my pronghorn bag, and after it was stuffed and compressed as much as it could be, I took a D-loop Velcro strap and went around the bag and compressed it even further so it would fit in between my bars.
Okay.
And doing that day in, day out would be a pain in the ass. And then if your Velcro strap fails, now you're looking at your bag sitting against your hoods, which is not comfortable because, A, you can't get your hands on your hoods, and then also your shifter's not going to work. So I was entertaining this guy right here. In fact, it's already in my cart, but
get that man another beer.
It'll probably get purchased tonight after a snoot of whiskey. But I've also been noticing. Did you watch Bikepacking? His video on the rundown of the Tour Divide bikes?
Nope.
It's worth a watch.
Okay.
He does all the nerdy stuff so you don't have to. He literally goes through almost every category you can think of, between gearing, as far as like how many people rode single speed, what chain ring, what gear ratio, are they on 12 speed, are they on 11 speed, are they using SRAM, are they using Shimano, what the frame material is, what wheel size, what the predominant bag is, flat bar versus drop bar, saddle bag or seat bag versus rack system. I mean, it goes through all of it, and it was really interesting because I think there was a couple of jumps in category because he also compares it to previous year, last year. But I said all that to say that the rear rack system, specifically the tail fin and the Old Man Mountain, are becoming a much bigger deal.
That's been a trend for the past few years.
Yeah. But at Tour Divide, like even what's his face, Robin was running a rear rack tail fin situation. I don't know where. I've got too many tabs open.
Caleb would yell at you.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Yeah, he was running a rear rack. So I was thinking about that too, just from an ease of use. You know, even though my saddlebag is, my seat bag is pretty easy to use because it's basically has a shell and then the stuff bag just goes in it, you know. And I've never had any problems. People say, well, they sway, and you know, and Revelate even came out with their spine lock, which is supposed to eliminate the swaying. But I've ridden with at least 2 people that have had problems with those, and it could have been attributed to user error on both accounts,
or it's not the right solution yet, sort of thing. You know, it's an evolutionary process. I mean, the big deal with saddlebags, seat bags, whatever you want to call them, is every use case is completely different from one another. Every bike is different. Every seat post length is different. Every how much saddle is back is different for every rider.
Yeah.
So nobody can say, "Oh, this is the perfect solution."
No.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons that the rear racks are starting to become the default. Well, there's the tail fin solution out there, which from a weight perspective makes sense, and from the capability perspective does make sense from a traditional rear rack. But essentially you can make that work with any bike is ultimately what it comes down to. You don't, again, that was a big deal with the Tributary, and it's a big deal also with the Brompton. It's, how do I do bags on this thing? You know, the Tributary was a pain in the ass. Ultimately, I moved my rear rack over to the Tributary because it's like, all right, my worst case scenario is I throw shit in a dry bag and put it on the rear rack. We're good to go. Sort of thing.
Well, and I'm not saying I'm going to switch my system up, but I'm more curious now than I ever been about a rear rack system specifically for Race Across Texas.
I get it.
But that being said, like, I'm still, you know, there's quite a few things that are on my ponderance list, you know, fueling, water storage. Am I going to go to a bladder system, and run a full frame bag?
Well, that's where we kind of started with the Spinistry Towns list. So, I mean, the biggest gap between water resupply.
It's not the mileage, it's the time, really.
I understand, and that's what I'm getting at. So, the biggest gap is 54 miles, which is in a worst case scenario 5 hours, right?
Yeah.
So 5 hours, you need to be able to carry 5 to 6 bottles, right?
Yeah. Well, and I can do that, but
or 5 to 6 bottles worth, I guess is the best way to say it.
And that's the thing I guess I don't understand, because I've never been a bladder in a bag guy, but I do get just the pros and cons of it, as far as it's easy to drink out of, especially in the aero bar position, or, you don't have to reach down and grab a bottle. I get that, but it makes me wonder, well, I don't want to put any kind of powder in a bladder,
Right.
because it's just,
Right.
over time, it's going to be gross. So then how do you fuel in addition to that? Because I don't want to do the super thick deal like Justin does, but also, like, how do you refill that big ass bladder when you stop? Does it have a quick disconnect and you take it out and then you got to run the hose again? I mean, these are questions I don't know.
I understand.
So I've got to figure out what I'm going to do about that solution. Am I going to just outfit my bike to carry, 6 bottles? And it's not, I think my bike right now, my Fargo, I can carry 2, 3, 4. As my bike's set up right now, if I take that Salsa Vault out of one of my cages, I can carry 5 bottles as it sits.
Right.
I could easily put a rack on the other fork leg and carry a 6th bottle, or I can do feed bags, So
Feed bags make a big difference. Personally, I don't like the bladder setup myself. So when I did the rat, I was perfectly happy just to have the full frame bag and all of that glorious real estate in there to do whatever I wanted to. And part of that was I had room in there for a water bottle. And so that was 5 water bottles for me there.
How'd you get 5 water bottles? Feed bags, fork legs, and 1 in the bag?
Let's see. It was feed bags.
Down tube?
It was feed bags and fork legs, feed bag, fork legs, and down tube.
Yeah.
Trying to remember. So.
See, that was the other thing, is I was thinking about trying to keep my bottle off my fork leg, only because of aerodynamics.
Sure.
Just over 1,000 miles. That's a lot of drag, and then the full frame bag too, crosswind,
That's part of the package.
Yeah.
Is ultimately what it boils down to.
Now, if you got a cross tail, I think it's probably a good thing.
It does push you from time to time.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I would rather just use the bottles in the bag approach myself and just have it as storage. But I'm also one of those that I'm not worried about staying in the saddle for 3 hours at a time. I'm happy to get off the bike every hour to hour and a half.
I'm not doing that, but.
And just to move my feet. I'm not telling you what to do.
Yeah.
I said, for me, I'm perfectly happy getting off the bike every hour to hour and a half, have a little snack, walk around, take a leak.
Yeah.
Shift bottles around. I had no problem with that.
Well,
it doesn't take 5 minutes.
I'm not going to run a full frame bag if I'm not going to run a bladder. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. That's just my thought process.
No, my finding was that extra real estate in the bag made the difference between a half bag and just losing that space between the bottle cages.
Yeah.
Just all that extra room is useful for something for the multi-day aspect for me. But that's my approach.
The other thing is, if I was going to run a full frame bag, I wouldn't run the one that I have one that I purchased years ago that has never even been mounted to a bike. But it's when Salsa was making their EXP bags or whatever. And so, yeah, it has 2 sides, but on one side it's just cavernous. Now they have the newer ones. I think Revelate specifically, or most bag manufacturers now have, excuse me, where they're doing, about halfway, there's a zipper so you can put stuff at the bottom and you can put stuff at the top. Now that makes a lot more sense to me versus having this big deal where If something's at the bottom, you got to dig for it.
I get it. I get it.
If I was going to run a full frame bag, I would probably buy a different frame bag. And then we get into how many bags do you need? I'm not going to buy $600 worth of bags just to do the race.
I don't.
So, but I am very interested in getting the pitchfork. So,
understood. Are you up against it time-wise?
Yeah, I kind of need to get. I'm still trying to get a ride in today too. I'm gonna wait till it gets hot though.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. We do have some good cloud cover today, and as mentioned before, it's not super windy.
For the time being.
For the time being, let me before I let you go, let me look at my calendar real quick because I wanted to put a bug in your ear.
Okay.
Next Wednesday is July 2nd.
Okay.
And I have nothing going on leading up into that weekend.
Okay.
So why don't you, barring any weather issues, bring a bike next Wednesday and let's plan on riding afterwards.
You should be able to. My wife will be back by then, so I should be able to.
Yeah, don't say no. Say yes and then disappoint me.
I'm an under-promise, over-deliver type guy myself. Let's plan on riding bikes next week.
Okay, let's do that.
Weather permitting.
Not heat. We're not gonna get rid of the ride because of the heat.
No.
We're gonna get. Oh, speaking of which, when I rode, so I did not ride yesterday. I'm sad to miss TNSS. But when I rode on Monday, it was it may have happened before, but Monday was when I noticed. When I finished my ride, my Garmin indicated that I was 100% heat acclimated.
Oh, look at that.
I feel like I was heat acclimated before that, but like I said, it was the first time I noticed my Garmin said that. I meant to pay better attention to it.
Did you watch Dylan's heat acclimation video yet?
I started it and then it got to be too much.
Understood.
But that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
I haven't finished it. How about that?
There you go.
What was the main takeaway?
I mean, that heat acclimation is important. It's a great training tool for altitude and other stuff. And
I think it's great, period, just for everyday life.
But it has to be done properly or it can be extremely counterproductive.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I'm way ahead of where I was last year for heat acclimation. And I almost feel like my body was a lot more familiar with it because of what I went through last year. And so it was quicker to adapt this year.
That lines up with the science, yes.
Yeah. That being said, I haven't been doing any big efforts or anything. It's just been steady goes the ride, you know. I haven't done any like polarizing workouts or anything and you know, no sprints or anything like that. So, but I have noticed that my resting heart rate has gone down and just my perceived effort on the same rides I've been doing has gone down and down and down. So I know that I'm getting stronger. I don't feel like it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we could go down a really long rabbit hole that we're not going to, but
that's fine.
Let's talk about that specifically next week. The perceived effort and not feeling like you're getting stronger. I want to go down that rabbit hole next week.
I've still been fighting my fit a little bit, but I think I made another adjustment to my saddle. Speaking of, I still need to replace my saddle too, but and that I've felt a lot more comfortable on the bike. So that could be an attributing factor as well. But we'll see today when I go ride. So go ride your bike.
I think I will.
This bill legalizes sawed-off short guns.
All right.